Hello and welcome to Counterpressed on the Ringer and Spotify. I'm in Zurich with Jessy Parker Humphreys. We've just been rearranging Jessy's entire lovely apartment, and this is the best job we could do. We've got various different
I think this
camera
is a pretty good
angles.
setup as it goes.
This is the perils of going full video, guys. So we're doing this because of you lovely people on YouTube and
Me,
watching on
hopefully, when you
Spotify.
arrive, being like, "Are we doing video?"
Yeah, Jessy was very hopeful that, and I said, no, I've got a whole suitcase full of equipment just for this moment. Shout out our producer Katie as well, who has been helping us, and my brother Theo, who's standing in the corner there, who will definitely be making some cameos this summer. So yeah, arrived in Zurich. It's warm, it's green. Seen the Black Stenius shirts already.
Have you?
Yeah, we've saw loads from the airport because obviously Germany, Sweden tonight. We're all going, very exciting. Before we just look ahead to England's game against Wales, Jessy, you were watching Group B come to a close last night here. Were you soaking up any vibes? What was how did you experience the end of what has been my favourite group of the tournament?
I wasn't soaking up any vibes because I did go out the night before and I was really tired, so I did watch it at home. Yeah, I definitely feel like we got a text from Kate Longhurst, didn't we, saying that she thought we should just send all four of these teams through. It was a really fun end. Spain, Italy, I thought in particular was a lot of fun. I really needed a Belgium win for my predictions league, and I was so mad when the Amber Tiziak goal got chalked off, but I got my second goal. But yeah, the real atmos was Group A, because obviously that was Switzerland, so that was a very much a fun night out.
Yeah, don't think we haven't spoken to you since Group A finished and Switzerland got through. I think everyone wanted that to happen. It was obviously really sad for the Finns and really emotional reaction for them at full time, but the way that Switzerland came back in that game with everyone thinking that the result was done was a moment in itself.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think Switzerland deserved it. Honestly, I've enjoyed watching Finland at this tournament. I think they've been unlucky in some of their games, definitely in the Norway one. But I was kind of disappointed in them in this game. I felt like they were the team who really needed to go for it. And then obviously Switzerland just conceded the most stupid penalty in the world. Finland score it, and you're just thinking, oh my God, like, after everything the Swiss had done and like have played quite well this tournament. But obviously, Geraldine Reuteler, three player of the match awards in 3 games.
What
I love
a
that
tournament
for her.
she's having. And she was already quite hipster's choice, I think, coming
Yeah,
into this
I think
tournament.
that's fair.
Do you think she's gonna get she's gonna get that Euros tax in the summer?
I guess maybe. She needs her tax to go down because of those awful corners.
So true. Okay, we'll do a break now, guys. And then we're going to talk about England's big game against Wales tomorrow. This episode is presented by Pepsi Max. Pepsi Max has always supported both women's and men's football. So to help make sure the next 50 years are as legendary as the last, they've made an inspiring film called Refresh the Game, featuring current stars like Lauren James and Leah Williamson, alongside legends like Pelé. Refresh the Game celebrates the unapologetic challenger spirit and talent of women's football. Watch it now on Pepsi Max channels. Pepsi Max, proud sponsors of the UEFA Women's Euro this summer. So, Jessy, first time I've seen you IRL since your Vibes voice note. I have to say the well start of the voice note really kept us going.
I didn't realise that would bring me so much joy, but I'm glad it did.
And I listened to it about 4 times, and every single time the well gave me a little buzz. But I think it's good to maybe quickly just debrief on what the vibes have been like in the camp since you've been going to press conferences and stuff like that, because I've only been joining things and watching things online. But would you say there was a real noticeable difference from when you've seen or been around the camp from before the Netherlands game compared to after?
I mean, I wouldn't say it feels like a notable difference. I think, it felt like after the France game, everyone was maybe... optimistic is potentially the wrong word, but I didn't think players sort of came across as that phased. They came across about quite pragmatic and in what they had to do, but also with a belief that they had the ability to do it. And I guess that's pretty natural, I think, for this England team. Basically the Netherlands game acted as a knockout match, And nobody wants to be playing a knockout match in your second group stage game. But England have played plenty of knockout games where, they've won a Euros, they've gone to a World Cup final where you do go into each game being like, we have to get a result here no matter what. So I don't really feel like it's changed the vibes that much. I feel like generally the focus has still been very much on like, okay, we did what we needed to do to put ourselves in the position we're in. I think Opta give them a 90% chance of going through tomorrow night. But ultimately, they still do have to go and get this win against Wales, and I think that just feels like they're pretty tunnel visioned on that.
Yeah, and it's no disrespect to Wales, and we've spoken a lot about how amazing it's been that they've got to this point. But there is such an assumption, as much as Lauren Hemp tried to dissuade that narrative in her press conference on Friday. There is this assumption that England will comfortably win. They might win by a pretty decent score, but they do have to be careful because I think we've mentioned it before. Wales will want to do nothing more than cause England all sorts of problems and make things difficult. And if the Netherlands were to beat France, then it might get sticky for England. But there's also an assumption that France, there's no way that they'll lose to the Netherlands, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think that France-Netherlands game will be interesting. France feel like a little bit hard to read. They were obviously so good against England. I didn't think they were amazing against Wales, but then they also rotated a lot of that team, which I thought was quite a bold move, but obviously it paid off. They did win comfortably in the end. So that kind of felt like it made it harder to judge, kind of their level. You would still obviously have them as favourites against the Netherlands. I think, obviously, for the Netherlands, it will kind of depend on maybe how chastening that experience against England was. But look, we said that after England played France, that, is that something that, really knocks you? And they came out and looked great. So I wouldn't suggest the Netherlands couldn't do the same. I think for the Wales game, the thing that will be really interesting for England is it's just a very different challenge. Even if you take out sort of the rivalry aspect, and it is really funny, I think, English people sort of go into it maybe being a bit more affectionate about or not affectionate, but a bit more nonplussed about the relationship between the two teams, whereas every Welsh player you see talking and being like, of course it means more to us. And I'm like, it makes perfect sense. But Wales aren't going to be interested in having the ball in the way that France and the Netherlands would have wanted to. Wales kind of, they're probably going to be quite happy to sit back. It's an interesting thing.
But I
mentality-wise,
I think they looked better against France when they didn't.
Yeah, I know.
The Netherlands, that it was such a slog for them because of it.
I agree, and I think I don't think sort of playing fish lockers that sole 9 really made sense, and the way they set up against France did look a lot better. But I guess this is the thing. Maybe it's just natural, outside media, whoever wants to put on this thing of Wales spoiling the party. But I guess if Wales do want to win the game, maybe they will go for a bit more, because to a certain extent, you're like, oh, maybe if you're Wales, you play for a draw, because that's actually sort of what hurts England. But footballers are footballers, right? They are going to go out and win. I think if they do try and be more expansive, I feel like what happened against France will happen with England as well. Because I just feel like England there are the spaces there. They've shown, especially against the Netherlands, that they can exploit them. Whereas actually when England have struggled more, we have seen it when teams maybe sit back a bit more, especially in those Belgian games, and then try and attack in transition. So I guess that's something Wales can look to do. But yeah, you have to obviously make England heavy favourites in this game, I think, regardless.
This episode is presented by Pepsi Max. In the last 50 years, the beautiful game has had more than its share of iconic moments. And Pepsi has been at the centre of loads of them with their iconic films. Now, Pepsi Max are doubling down on their support of the women's game in a massive way. Not only are they sponsoring the Women's Euro in 2025, they're also refreshing the game with their star-studded new campaign. It follows today's stars, Lauren James, Leah Williamson, Alexia Putellas, Caroline Graham-Hansen and Farrah Jeffrey on a journey through time as they refresh some of Pepsi's most iconic footballing moments. From Pele's debut in the 1970s to Ronaldinho's beachside brilliance. This isn't just nostalgia, it's a statement. With record viewership, women's football is the fastest growing sport on the planet, and Pepsi Max is right there cheering on that growth. Watch the legends meet now on Pepsi Max channels. Pepsi Max, proud sponsors of the UEFA Women's Euro this summer. You touched on it on your voice note. It's come up in 2 or 3 press conferences since. The new fashion trend thing that everyone loves talking about is proper English
Proper England.
Who's was it? Georgia Stanway.
Spelled A-H.
Was it Georgia Stanway?
Yeah, she brought it first. Yeah.
Georgia Stanway brought it up in the pre-Netherlands press conference. Then it came up with Alessia Russo post-match, post-Netherlands. Then it came up again in the Laurent Hemp conversation. I feel like it's going to keep morphing into stuff that works for whatever the scenario is that England are facing. What would your definition of proper English be?
It's funny, I've actually just written about this morning. I feel like it's quite a strange term, even though I understand why they sort of like want to rally around it. When Stanway spoke about it, it felt like she was saying, you know, it felt like Stanway's version of football. No nonsense, tackles, you know, giving it everything, blah, blah, blah. Wiegman then described it as being like doing everything with purpose, which I did like that as a description, that, you know, that every pass should have purpose, every tackle should have purpose. But it feels like, I think one of those things that makes it feel a bit weird is like, and this is kind of what I was writing about, is that sort of idea of English football feels like it always comes a lot around men's major tournaments. And for me, that always feels like it's kind of just like quite a stinky description of basically being like, you sort of play crap and you kind of try and win. I don't really think there's teams like that, but they are quite pragmatic. But it feels like they're obviously sort of using it to kind of rally around their own identity.
And I also think back in the day, other European nations would have said, oh, England have no attacking style. They're just really defensive and a bit bish, bash, bosh. If someone said to me proper English performance, I would have a picture of Terry Butcher's bleeding head as the thing that sticks out to me. So I do feel like they're morphing it, and what Serena Wiegman said is how I would interpret it, is playing with purpose and being aggressive offensively and trying to progress the ball in positive ways, rather than maybe Georgia Stanway's impression was like just tough tackling, no nonsense, bodies on the line.
She was like, it's about remembering why we're here.
Yeah.
Which I was like, that's cool. And I think also though, maybe it is like something I was thinking about around it is, it's obviously hard for England. I think they're in this funny position whereby, because they're the holders, they are sort of seen as favourites, but everyone then knows Spain are actually the kind of the favourites because they've won the World Cup in between those things happening. So it feels like maybe there's this sort of pressure from England, like that the England are feeling, which isn't really relevant to their performances, and maybe just sort of having that as a kind of a buzzword about the way they want to play is a way of getting rid of that noise and just being able to focus on what it is they want to do on the pitch, not thinking about how people expect them to play maybe, or how they expect their results to go. Because I guess that was the thing that was interesting about the reaction after the France game. It was almost like there was this really big shock. And I think that was kind of understandable in terms of how poor England played. But I think if you'd sat and watched sort of the last 18 months of England and France performances, you'd be like, well, there's not that much of a gap between these teams. But I think it just says a lot about how England's position within international women's football has ended up being sort of elevated beyond the level of where it maybe actually is. And I wonder if being able to drill down to their actual what philosophy and what they want to do has been helpful in that sense.
Yeah, and something for me, and I think we'll come back and revisit it throughout the tournament, but given we're sort of touching back on that Netherlands bounce back, is something has shifted in this team because they're winners. And it sounds like a cliche, but I do really believe a lot of them when they say, and having done something with Frau Williams on Thursday, she was certainly of the feeling that as soon as you win something, and her being in a position where they didn't, you can tap into something that no one else can. And it's going to be interesting when a team like France progresses deeper in this competition, which they probably will because they look good. When does their moment come where they have a bit of a freak out and they don't have that thing to fall back on?
Well, that felt like the thing with Spain at Euro 22, right? Where they hadn't won a knockout game at an international tournament. And even though England hadn't won an international tournament, they'd gone to the semi-finals in the three previous international. They had that experience of like getting through knockout games, even if they'd then kind of developed this sort of semi-final curse themselves. And that's why I probably feel like higher on Spain than I even did going into the World Cup, kind of understandably. But I'm like, because they got through all of that and showed they could get through that. And I agree, like lots of people have doubts about France because they haven't shown they can do that. And Germany are a team who you maybe feel higher on because, you know, they've been, even if this particular generation hasn't necessarily done it, they've been serial winners. It was interesting, I was talking to Sue Smith for her column that she's doing for The Observer, and we were talking about whether you watch the other games at a tournament, because, you know, it's like kind of a funny thing, like obviously everyone's going to want to know what's going on, but like sometimes you feel like maybe if you get too in your head about how other teams are doing, that can sort of rattle you. She was saying they would always do it, but they would be sat there thinking, oh god, that team looks good, that team looks good,
It would get in my head, I wouldn't.
But she was like, but this group will probably sit there and feel like, okay, yeah, but we think we can beat that team. If you take France, Germany and Spain, England have beaten all three of those teams in, you know, the past 3 years. So they have that memory of doing that. So they're going to sit there and still feel good about themselves.
Yeah, well, that's probably enough preview chat for today. We'll be back on Monday morning chatting about England, Wales, looking ahead to the quarterfinals.
If things go as we expect things to go, right, and France do beat the Netherlands and they finish top, England finish second, they will face the winner of Group C, which will be Sweden if they draw or beat Germany tonight, or Germany if they win.
Those are the official permutations.
The Parker Humphreys permutation.
Stato Parker Humphreys has them. So we'll be back on Monday morning reflecting on England's last group game against Wales and then looking ahead to the quarterfinals, and hopefully England will be there. We'll see you then.